Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Acton. I'm your host, Olivia Acton. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Tony Jalan. Tony's 25-year journey from sales rep to his current role as a financial institutions enablement manager is filled with resilience and leadership. He built multiple award-winning high-performance sales teams, including being a 6-time number 1 division sales manager and a 5-time top new business partnership development champion. Tony embodies the 4 fundamental mindsets of self-awareness, acknowledgement of realities, taking intentional action, and relentless accountability. His passion for concise leadership development led him to earn the John C. Maxwell certification and become a member of the Maxwell Leadership Certified Coaching Team. Through over 12,000 hours of coaching, Tony empowers leaders to cultivate self-awareness, embrace hard truths, galvanize teams with emotional intelligence, and master life work harmony. You can find Tony on LinkedIn by searching Tony Jalan. Hello, Tony. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Olivia, I am excited and grateful to be here.
And you are one of my favorite people. I love talking to you all the time. So I know this conversation is going to be very dynamic and interesting. And we're probably going to cover so much, but also probably leave so much on the table to still be left to talk about. But let's start and dive in. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Tony Jalan?
That's a great question to kick things off. And let me tell you about the night that completely changed how I view success. So I was a division manager, topped my game, had earned like life-changing income at this point, right? Multiple division, like top leader, whatnot, awards lining my bookcase. By all traditional measures, I had made it. But there I was, late that one evening, staring at yet another top performer award, feeling empty. And it hit me like a thunderbolt. I've been chasing the wrong thing. And that moment is what sparked the journey that transformed everything for me. I mean, I became that certified John Maxwell coach. I discovered a mindset that forced me to confront like hard truths about my leadership and even myself. And I tell you what, it wasn't comfortable, but it was transformative. And suddenly, success just wasn't about the numbers for me. It was about growth. It was in my growth in my team, in the leaders that I mentored and coached, in myself. And it was truly about finding that harmony between career achievements and personal fulfillment. And so here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. All right. The new definition of success. It didn't just make me a better leader, it made me a better person. And ironically enough, it catapulted my career to even further heights. So success to me isn't just about a title or trophy. It's a journey of constant growth, meaningful impact, and living with purpose. And here's the thing that might surprise you. The moment you redefine success this way and create like harmony, I found that the old measures of achievement start chasing you instead of the other way around. So I think the question is, what if the key to unlocking your potential isn't in reaching for more, but in redefining what more really means?
And that's something I think you've hit on a lot of amazing points that you and I have delved into so many times And when I say this, Tony and I'm going to give you guys a little background knowledge on just when Tony talks, you might hear a little bit of a different dynamic between us than you normally get, because when I say Tony is a friend, he's become one of my go-to people, not just for advice and mentorship, which I know he will always give, but just as like my biggest cheerleader and supporter, and someone where I'm like, I will drop anything for Tony. So when he brings up putting others first and that alignment can shift, it is so true, because Tony challenges me every single time we talk. Where we get on a call and we're just catching up, and he goes, "Is that really what you want to be leaning into, or is that how you're seeing it first this way? Or are you trying to make something fit?" And I'm like, "Tony, how can you continuously challenge me without me even going into a call thinking I'm going to be challenged?" So I love how you really encompassed all of that in what you just said, because it's even something we've talked about. What, months ago? I would say almost maybe even a year ago at this
Right.
point,
Right.
where I was talking to you and I'm like, these speaking jobs, if I could just do X, Y, and Z, and you were hearing the tone of my voice in that voice versus the tone in my voice when it came to the consulting side of things. And you paused and you said, Olivia, is that really going to fulfill you? Or are you doing it to check a box?
Mhm.
That money monetization box, like in X amount of years, is this what you're going to be wanting to do? And I took a step back and I was like, wait, what is really driving me in this?
Mhm.
Is it that monetization? Is it the fact that so many people are doing it right now that it's just like what you should be doing? Or is it something that drives me because of passion? And there is a level of it that is passion driven. And that's why, depending on the opportunity, I still take it, I still do it. But it's not something I'm chasing. Now, when the opportunities come to me, they do come, and I say yes or I get to say
Mhm.
no. So for you, based off that, how, as you transitioned and really started changing your own mindset, did you also lean into changing the way you looked at opportunities?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, once you like define like what really matters, your lens becomes different. You start to embrace no a lot more than yes. Because
Mhm.
here's the truth. Every time you say yes to something, like you said, oh, everyone's doing it. I better hop on that bus. You're saying no to something else.
Mhm.
And the cost associated with that no, are you okay with? So for me, yeah, it absolutely changes things I say yes or no to, because I used to say yes to a lot of things. And eventually saying yes to all those things led to some unhappiness because I was letting people down, ultimately letting myself down because I wasn't going to be able to fulfill those requests.
And I think that's something that you really have to keep in mind. I'm the same way. And Tony and I have talked about this. If you asked me, what, 2 years ago, when I was starting my business, and you said to me, Olivia, what kind of person are you? I'm like, take a hold of every opportunity. Just figure out how to get it
Let's
done. Just,
go.
yeah, like, let's go. I will get it done. Let's do it. And then over time, it became this thing where, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, when you're leaning into what really drives you, what makes the people around you happy, and providing that service, and really making sure you don't get burnt out in the process, because when you're a solo entrepreneur, you have that small team, you got to fill everything.
Right.
And there's that saying, and it is true to some extent, not everyone has to work the 16-hour days, 7 days a week, but you never really get a day off. And I I've seen that so many times where it's, okay, I had to relocate, I have to take the month off. and everyone's good with it, and then all the phone calls start coming in on the road, and you're just trying to you're the only one that can solve it, so you have to lean into it. But it's also the ability to go, do I have to say yes to this specific thing? Do I have to negotiate my worth to fulfill someone else? Or is it okay for me to walk away from that? And I think so many times, and Tony, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, as individuals, whether we're within a company and wanting to climb the ladder, or you're a newer entrepreneur wanting to grow your business, even though in the back of your mind, you know, not every opportunity is worth taking or saying yes to everything, it's a scarcity. It's okay, I just got to do it to get to the next lane. And it's really hard to navigate that. Okay, not everything I have to do, because when I set those lines and those boundaries, other things will come. So, how do you help others navigate the importance of saying no and getting that into their daily routine?
I think the first thing you got to understand what's important to you and what's not important to you. And it's got to be clearly defined and it's got to be documented. 'Cause if it's not documented, it doesn't exist. So in my other my office and my whiteboard here, I have my values. And I also have my top like mission for this year, the things that I want to achieve. And I ask myself, does this allow me to get closer to that, or is it pulling me further away from it? And don't get me wrong, there's things that I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to do that. Okay, if you say yes to this means you're going to say no to something else. So I think one of the ways we do when I'm working with people is, they have to write down their vision for the year. And then they got to ask themselves, like, why do they want that? What are the reasons why they want that? And then how to get there. And they got to keep it in front of them and they got to look at it each and every day. Because whatever you focus on is what's going to expand in your life. And if you have nothing to focus on, ooh, it's going to be like shooting a flashlight out there. Okay, let's go ahead and see versus like a laser beam. So that's one of the ways we help do it.
And I think that's so important, is to write it down and really see it every day, so that as you start to get pulled in a lot of different directions, or someone else brings an idea to you, oh, you could just do this and you could get there, or provide another stream of services, or whatever it might be, you start to lose. And I think we all might get stuck in that a little bit when we're not seeing the momentum we thought our journey would have, or hitting benchmarks we set for ourselves. We start to go, okay, is there another thing I could be doing? Should I be pursuing this area instead of this right now? So for you, how have you conquered that when things haven't gone in the way you wanted over a timeline, let's say a month, 2 months, and you're putting in the work and you're not seeing the results, not how do you not kind of start going, okay, let me just pull everything and see what can work? And how do you help others go, okay, don't get in this overwhelming mindset where you just start throwing those darts at the dartboard?
That's a great question. So daily reflection helps a lot. So when I say your vision for the year, we break that down into 4 parts quarterly. That's what we got to break down first. Okay, so here are the milestones I want to achieve each quarter. So I think sometimes we see that end zone, the finish line is so far away that we don't take the time to celebrate the small wins along the way. And in the beginning, when you're pursuing anything, it's going to suck, right? But the question is, even though it might suck, does it get you excited? Because by doing XYZ, it's going to get me that end result. And by having quarterly benchmarks slash milestones, it's going to help you understand and have an awareness is, okay, am I doing the right things? Or sometimes you got to tweak things. And sometimes you just got to do to learn. Sometimes you just don't know, right? And the truth is, it's going to keep on happening to you until you figure it out.
Well, and that being said, how have you yourself gone through as you're growing and setting these benchmarks for yourself and these annual visions, canceled out the noise? And when I say noise, I mean social media is so accessible. And as I put it, everyone lists their A list moments and never those B or C list moments. And that's how I kind of put it is no one tells you the failures they go through. No
No.
one tells you how long it actually takes to get there. So but people see that and they go, okay, well, I'm not there yet. So I am failing, or I need to pivot, or I need to do this instead. Like I mentioned earlier, the speaking. You see everyone becoming speakers right now. So it's like, okay, you got to open that, or want you got to write a book, whatever it might be. How have you navigated kind of canceling out that noise on your journey?
Well, if I said that I've 100% canceled out that noise, I would be lying because I haven't. I still get caught with the noise as well at times. But I think when I get caught with the noise is because I didn't have my vision in front of me. I didn't have my values in front of me. I started letting life lead me versus me leading my life. And I think not only by having your goals and in front of you, you got to surround yourself with people that are aware of your goals as well. I remember this was years ago. I made a goal to write an article on LinkedIn every week for a year. For 52 weeks, I was going to write a LinkedIn blog article. And in the beginning, I was all excited about, oh, I'm going to do this, right? I'm going to go out there, share what I've been given because I truly believe I'm a product of mentorship. I've had amazing people that have sold into me and helped me become the person I am today. But everything is exciting until the feeling of that excitement starts to wane away. Mm-hmm. And I told a few people about it. And I remember telling my wife about it. And all of a sudden, I still never forget, I was kind of underneath the weather this day. And I still remember this day like as clear as day. Clear as night, maybe? I don't know. Whatever the phrase is. And she asked me, did you get your blog done yet today? And I was probably on a, I don't know, 10-week um, consistently doing it. I'm like, no, I haven't yet. Oh, well, it's getting kind of late. And you said to your people you're going to have it out every Monday. I'm like, be quiet. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Ah! But she was right. So one of the ways that helped me stay on track is you share it with people that you know are they're going to hold you accountable, and you got to give them permission to. That's key. Say, hey, Olivia, you have permission to hold me accountable to this goal. I may not like you on the days that you hold me accountable to it, but I give you permission. And I think the other thing is this, is that, every day the sun's going to rise and it's going to set. It's not going to wait for you. So ask yourself the question is, what's it going to cost me if I don't go after this? What's going to be that nightmare? Who's this going to impact by not doing it? And truth be told, I'm probably more motivated by the nightmare versus the dream. Letting my family down, letting my teammates down, letting my colleagues down, letting my clients down. Like, not every day you're going to feel like it. Some days you want to do the TikTok scroll more than anything, right? But if we led every day with how we feel, how much would we actually get accomplished?
And that just reminded me of something I am going through right now when we talk about is that fear, nightmare going to take over down the road, right? It might not happen right now. And Tony and I, we text regularly, and this is something I've been keeping close to the vest, but I'll kind of share it on here because Tony gets me to say all my secrets sometimes. Is obviously, Tony, as you know, I started dating my boyfriend a little over a year ago now, and he's in the Coast Guard. And I remember last November, I went to get like apparel because he had made chief, and I wanted to surprise him with something like me wearing a sweatshirt representing the Coast Guard and maybe getting him something to wear chief. And it took me forever. And I could not find anything to the point where I finally, about after quite a few days of looking, came across one sweatshirt that said girlfriend. And I was like, here's my money. I don't care how much it costs. Just like, let's get it. And then I ended up calling one of my contacts to get something custom made. I was like, can you engrave this? Because I can't find anything. And that stuck with me. And, time's expanding, and I'm just like meeting different people within the service. And we're like just out and about, and they'd have all this stuff for different branches of the military, nothing for Coast Guard. Or I hear a family member go, oh, I wish I could buy my son this because he's graduating from the Coast Guard, but there's nothing out there. I'm like, okay, and it kind of stuck in the back of my head. Now I run my business full time. So it's not like I have the time to do this. But something just kept itching at me. Fast forward months and many, many conversations that happened in passing to about August. And I'm hearing it more and more because now I'm in Juneau, Alaska, and the Coast Guard um, representation is very high here. And I'm hearing it more. And I'm just like, I got to be able to do something to solve this problem.
Mhm.
Everyone, and from my point of view too, it's like they do so much to save so many people's lives and help them in so many different ways. There should be something we could do to give something to them, give back. And I started researching, and I'm like, I have experience in promotional products and apparel, and I'm like, I have all this years of knowledge in this industry. I could do this. And I sat down with my boyfriend, and Tony, you're going to laugh at this because this is probably what you're thinking right now. And he's like, I support the idea, but as you know, Tony, I'm doing different things within the business. And he's like, doing that's going to take time away from doing this. And should you be doing that? Like, and he was like, I love the idea. However, I will support you. But is taking away time from X, Y, and Z really worth it? Or are you dividing your time too much? And he said it, and I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. I could wait. Now, my business mind was also going, it's fall and holiday season's coming. So if you're
Mhm.
going to launch an apparel company and give people something to buy, maybe do it in the holidays. And I just sat there, and for about a month, every day, it was just itching at me in the back of my head. Like, you could figure out
Mhm.
some way to make this happen. And so I was like, I just need a little bit more information because right now I can't make the sound decision,
Right.
and it's itching at me too much. And I was like, I know some people in the industry, they're going to give me, like you, Tony, they're going to give me the sound advice and the information to cancel out all the other noise. And I talked to those handful of people, and they changed my perspective on how I could run the business. I
Mhm.
didn't need to buy, all this stuff and do it all myself and this and that. And I was like, oh, I can really do this and do it the way I want to while not taking any time away from my business. And I was like, we're going to start small, right? It's not going to be a full fledged, but if we start small, then I can feel fulfilled. I could see how it would play out while running my other company. And if it works, great. If I feel overwhelmed, not doing it to the masses, right?
Right.
I could scale back, scale forward. And so I was like, I can't go another year with this burning itch and wondering, could I've done something? Could I've helped others where they just feel happier every day,
Right.
even if it's just by a shirt? And so I was like, gotta lean into it. And now we're almost done and it's gonna be released. And it didn't take away any time. But what it was happening was now I didn't have that burning itch in the back of my head all day, every day. And I was able to figure out a way that after the time, nothing got taken away from my day to day, but it was after the time. how much time could I allocate to this today? And that's how I made it work. But I think that dying itch that you mentioned, when you sit there and you just let it foster,
Right.
could kill you. And when I say that, it just burns at you, where it's like, I hate to use this analogy, but I think it could probably be accurate. The smoker, where you just need your next fix, that next smoke. And unless you kind of let it out, it's going to get to you, and it's going to get to all areas of your life.
But there's something key with what you just shared there, though. One, it excites you, right? It wouldn't leave you. And you doing this, it wasn't about you. You said something like, what, like, create something like can bring smile and joy to other people. See, that's the beauty of it. When you do something and you add value to others and make the world a better place, it's fulfilling, right? And I think that was part of my own transformation when I was chasing all the titles and all the stuff. It's like it was about me, even though I was serving other people. Like inside, it was about me. It was about me and my goal and what I wanted to achieve. And things flipped when I made it about others. I think that's how you create wealth in the world, is that when you add value to the world, when you make a positive impact. And with your idea, it wouldn't leave you. It was just sitting there with you. And I think you sometimes just got to act on that, right? And I think the other part of it is I appreciate what your boyfriend said about, the time thing, because it made you stop to reflect and inspect. And then you were able to redirect yourself in a direction of, oh, I didn't need to do all these things. And that's why I'm really big on like reflecting. Everyone wants to set the goals and everything like that, and that's a piece of it. But I think you get more power out of reflecting, and we start putting your ideas on paper, because then it becomes real.
Next, I think, that's one thing you've even made me do. And we talk about your experience in sales. And when I was thinking about new offerings with achieving success and the podcast consulting, and again, I'm a very big advocate. And in a moment, I'd love to hear your thoughts and listening to what people are saying to you. And when I say this, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur or a manager and you're in charge of products or services you're going to be offering, you have to listen to the customer sometimes and be able to pivot. And I think sometimes people get stuck in that. But that's when I was taking Achieving Success, the podcast consulting division, and pivoting it a little bit, we still offer everything we offered, but everyone was telling me prices are too low. It's not in alignment. Your knowledge on the industry and your strategy and just how you're able to read all these different things is worth 20 times what you're charging now. And even that will probably be lower compared to your competitors. And like you gave me the shock. A lot of other people were like, Olivia, what are you doing? So when I was transitioning that, it was, I'm not just doing it to try to make more money. This is what people are saying to me and how
Mhm.
I need to value that as well. So sometimes it's about listening and really being able to perceive the information. And then, like you said, take the step back, reflect on it, say, okay, does this align with what I'm doing? Or is it totally far fetched? Is this going to add value? And how can I strategically take the time to implement it correctly?
Right.
So, for you, how do you decide what to lean into, how to pivot sometimes, and really making sure that whether it's someone you're coaching or yourself, you're listening to what other people are saying to you to kind of use that as a basis for reflection as well?
Mm. I look for patterns. All right. So, how do we know if someone's going down the right path? We look for patterns. So, for example, when you and I had that conversation, you got shook for that moment about your pricing when I'm telling you, good Lord, girl, what are you doing? You're adding so much more value than what you're charging. It's one of those things that, okay, are they right? Are they onto something or not? Then you could see if it comes up again. If it comes up again, then it comes up again. So then there's actually some truth in it now, because now you're investigating that. So I think you got to listen to learn, and then you learn, then you'll earn.
And I think one thing I want to lean in, because I know we're getting towards the end of the show, but I can't end the show without talking to the guy who's such a big people person like myself. Um, um, and not talk about people. Like, that's just crazy. I feel like we would be doing everyone an injustice. So that being said, one thing you mentioned earlier, and you and I do this, is the surround yourself with individuals that will hold you accountable, who will touch base and actually be there through the mud and the thick of it all.
Mm.
Words, but something that doesn't have to be just a transactional thing, where it can be, you can be those cheerleaders, but you also can be the challengers in moments of when you need to be, and
Right.
provide clarity to other individuals as well. There's been times we've gotten on the call and you're like, this is my idea. And I'm like, okay, I'm checking in with you, which we will be doing shortly because I did not forget, of like, hey, end of the quarter, we're going to touch base and see how you've actually moved forward with this. And you've done that too. You've sent me random texts of like, hey, how's this going? How are you? Are you doing it? So for you, like, what is that importance for you to make sure you're surround yourself not just with friends, but the right kind of friends? And when people, I'll do a two-hander here. When people who could be, you know, 10-year-old, 15-year-old friends start to not be the right fit and kind of
Mhm.
start to get, how do you handle that as well?
That's a tough thing to handle, because when you're on this growth journey, if they're not growing themselves at times, they're going to reach up and go, come back to me, come back to me, come back to me. Why you're doing that? You're so busy. Oh my gosh. You need to take time. You take a vacation, because your growth will sometimes make those around you in your quote unquote network uncomfortable. It could be because you're pursuing it, the things that you dream about, you have a vision for, and they're not. I remember it was actually when I was 19 years old, 19-year-olds, right? You know, what do you think they're doing all the time? They're drinking beer, they're having parties. I mean, wait, that's illegal to do that under 21 years of age. But I had some friends of mine that I absolutely loved with all my heart. And, I grew up with very little means. Uh, there's 9 kids in my family. I'm the oldest of 9 kids. Um, my parents did their darndest to create the best life for us, But the one thing they always had was effort. And I'll never forget the day in which, I was going to this leadership conference, and my buddies started to make fun of me. Oh, you're going to go get motivated. Ooh. And I looked around. I never forget. I still remember stuff in their apartment. They had 30 packs of Miller High Life, and they were playing Super Nintendo Mario Brothers. And it's fun for a while, but they were doing it consistently. And I go, I love you guys, but this is not the path that I want to go. I want to create a different life for myself. And I think that's a challenge with a lot of people who are pursuing something, where you will get obsessed about it. And people will not get it. They will not understand it. It's like when a dog sees a rabbit, he chases the rabbit to a hole, sees the rabbit go down the hole. And all of a sudden, the other dogs behind him are like, oh, what's going on? They see him digging, they see him digging, they see him digging. And they start digging. Like, oh, he's going after something. Let's all go for it. And eventually, the other dogs start leaving. And there's just one dog left. And it's the dog that saw the rabbit go down the hole. So understand that there's those people in your life that will remain lifelong friends for you, but they will not always be on the same path that you are. And that's okay.
And I think it's really as well important to identify and be with okay with the fact that, as you said, some people are not going to be able to grow.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have to take a step back. And I recently went through this of I had friends that I was friends with for well over 10 years now. They're amazing individuals, nothing but love for them.
Yeah.
But every single time we got together, and I think too, sometimes when you have those longtime friends, one of the things that make them longtime friends is that you're not competing for anything.
Right.
You're not competing for the same space or the same goals. You each have separate lives. But because I was on this roll and hyper focused, like you said, with the dog analogy, which I love, it was taking away areas, or they felt it was taking away areas
Hmm.
from being present with them. And as much
100%.
And as much effort as I leaned in to try to make them happy, I started walking on eggshells because I'm like, it's not going to be enough. Like, I
No.
just know there's going to be something wrong with it, but I can't leave this area. So it ended up, and I'm not saying either one of us handled it well. It got to a point where it became an argument. And I was just like, I'm done. I got to walk
Right.
away
Yeah.
because I cannot, you know, turn away who I am, and I can't fulfill what you need me to be at this point. Like, if that does not work for me. And it doesn't sound like you want that to change. It's either meet you where you are and fulfill what you need or nothing. And I think sometimes, to your point, those moments are going to hit, and you have to be ready to go, who am I going to pick?
Right.
You or me?
And
And how?
that, go ahead.
No, no, you go.
No, and I think that's why, I don't know. I've had numerous, and I forget, I had a client of mine sit down with me and she heard that the different success that I was having. And she goes to me, Tony, when is enough going to be enough? I'm like, never. We were born to create. Each and every one of us was born to create. And what's crazy about it is that of all the living creatures on this earth, human beings are the only ones that will limit their own growth. And you know why? Because there's this little thing called fear at times. There's also this thing called comfort. And comfort is the enemy of growth. I have experienced it. And comfort eventually will lead to complacency, which becomes a disease. And that's why you surround yourself with the right people that will knock you off your tail, challenge you, celebrate you, because we all need them in our lives. This journey wasn't meant to be walked alone. It really wasn't. But sometimes you got to start alone.
And I think one of the most powerful things, or I have learned on my journey, is there's some friends, like I said, and I have quite a few of them who are my college friends. One friend, um, she's getting married right now. She's actually my longest friend, and we've been friends. Let me date myself. Almost 20 years now. I'd say 17 if I'm doing my math right. And there's been times we've taken that punt. We're both busy.
Right.
That is okay.
Mm-hmm.
But we stay in each other's lives and we do extreme opposites.
Mm-hmm.
She's in healthcare. I do consult business, all this stuff. But we touch base. We're able to talk about what's going on without having to deep dive or challenge each other's thoughts. Let's be present. Let's catch
Yeah.
up. Let's live in the moment. And then, and I love those friends. But you have to be able to go, what kind of friend are you going to be? They're all okay to have. And what kind of friend am I going to be to you? Some friends, I am that like challenger, like, okay, what are you doing? Tell me everything you are. We talk more business and ideas and accountability than like, hey, let's go to the bar kind of situation. And some friends, it's a mix. Like I said earlier in the show, Tony, you've become a friend of mine where I can call you on my worst day. I've gotten surprised. I will never forget, and this is something that makes Tony even more special in my heart. I remember there's two moments where I turned to people and I said, Tony's going to be my lifelong friend. I don't care where we are in life, whatever. One of them, and Tony, you're gonna laugh at this, is we got off a call one day and I'd been running around that morning, head cut off kind of situation. I get on the call with Tony and Tony's personality takes over. I'm like, yes, this is going to be an energetic call. And I start rambling about Chick-fil-A and their powerhouse of hash browns. And we get into a conversation where I just thought we were going to catch up, this and that. And it turns into like, what, a 20-minute conversation about their hash browns?
Probably.
And I get a video. I leave Tony. I'm like, Tony, I just got them. They're delicious, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Tony, you got to go to Chick-fil-A and try these because you had it. What was it? Not even 2 days later, I get a video of you ordering the hash browns and reviewing them. In that moment, I was just like, I watched the video and I was like, yes. Also, like, just filled with so much joy and like, that's awesome. Not only did like he take my recommendation and try these and enjoy it, but I got a video of getting to actually see the reaction. And it's moments like that where it can be not business. And then Tony's the same individual where the morning of my TED talk, I remember that morning and I'm nervous and I'm getting ready and I've been up for quite a few hours doing hair and makeup. And I am about to walk into the staging area for them to do our mic tests and everything. And on my screen comes a video from Tony. And he's just like, you did it. This is going to be an awesome day. Go kick butt. And I was like, not many people at that time knew I was doing it. And out the ones, not many people reached out the day of until it was done and I told them about it. There were very few people that reached out that morning to be like, you got this, especially in a moment where there can be so many butterflies. And Tony was one of, I would say, 5 people. And I'd say 4 of them were family members that before I got on that TED stage, because again, I will give some of my friends credit. Some of it was I had to turn my phone off at a certain point. But Tony made it a point to record a video and send it to me out of his busy day. And I think when we look at individuals like you who can show up in moments where it can be glory moments, those happy moments, it could be the points where we need to hold each other accountable and be like, get your head out of the sand. What are we doing? You're not hitting your goals. And it could be the moments where it has nothing to do with business. You need to take account of those friends and make sure you at least have a handful of them in your life. Because I think, and Tony, I'd love to get your perception on this. Those are the things and people that keep you grounded, keep you sane sometimes, and keep you moving in a positive direction.
You had me think about this whole Chick-fil-A thing again. You just got to care. You, Olivia, doing the things that you've done and are doing inspire me. Who uproots her life, moves to the wilderness in Alaska, not knowing anybody, and continues to keep on going and embraces the challenge. Olivia does.
Well, I
That took
appreciate that.
that took courage. But the thing is, though, you have your values and things you want in your life, and it's so much not so much about what do you want to do with your life, but how do you want to live. You found an amazing man and your boyfriend, like, hey, this is how I want to live. And not a lot of people, and like that's when the rubber meets the road. It's like, okay, you say you want to do these things, you say you want to live this life, but when push comes to shove, are you willing to do what it takes to do that? And I think, you know, when those moments come up, I write those different things down, and like, if it's you matter, you're one of my people in my circle, and I don't know, it's like you just want to be those defining moments for people, right? And I think too is like if you want others to show up for you, you got to show up for them first.
And I think that's so important that sometimes we forget. And like you said, it's taking the time to go, am I actually going to take on this challenge? And it's funny because bringing up my own experiences like you did, for me, the reason I knew I was going to be okay and I could take it on is twofold. And two things you mentioned in this recording. One, I knew, okay, if I go and I hate it and I really can't do it, there's another option. But at least I know I went and did it and will not leave with regret, will not have that nightmare as we talked about earlier. And the second thing is I knew amazing things with phones and everything that we have is that I still have my people. I still had you, Tony. I still, had my family. I just had to make a conscious effort, that time zones and everything else, to stay present. And sometimes even I fall short of that. And I got to do my own little check like, oh, you haven't checked in on your people. You got to reach out. But I think that's a great way to wrap up on the aspect of the importance of your community, the importance of your network, and the importance of your relationships for this episode. Tony, how can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
Very simple. Just go on LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm there. You'll find an orange background probably somewhere along the lines there too. I like orange. Just find me on LinkedIn. Send me a message. You know, the world is smaller than we think, and
And
you're not alone. Wherever you're going through, if you're stuck, you're not alone. Even though you think you might be alone, you're not alone. Reach out. Reach out.
And Tony, I will say Tony is a man that when he says reach out, he will respond. He is that kind of person. And one of the many things that makes Tony unique and one of my favorite people. So that being said, thank you, Tony, for all of your insight today.
Olivia, I just want to say thank you so much for having me a guest on your show. And I hope your listeners got some value out of today's talk. And I just want to just encourage everyone to think about not what you want to do, but how do you want to live and to live with intention and purpose.
I think that's so powerful and something that I'm challenging everyone to go do and share with us. Reach out to me. I'll share it with Tony as well. Let us know. Also let us know how maybe we could help. Maybe
Mhm.
there's always a way for us to help each other. And a few of our key takeaways for today's conversation is everything you say yes to, you say no to something else. And what is the value of no? Tony brought this up earlier, and I think it's so important. It isn't just about saying yes to some things and you say no to others. What is the weight or value when you say no to something down the line? Is it going what repercussions are that going to have? Is it going to be something that's more in alignment what you want to do? Really take pause and evaluate that. As well as write down your vision for the year. Like Tony said, he has that on his whiteboard. He checks it, he looks at it. So important to not just think about it once and never touch it again, be able to see it, be able to embrace that, and check yourself sometimes. Am I actually following this? And as Tony said, taking that a step further, do those quarterly checks. What are those benchmark goals? Am I meeting them? Do I need to pivot? Because pivoting can be so important sometimes to meeting that long-term goal, as well as surround yourself with people who know your goals. As Tony mentioned, you got to have people in your circle that know those goals, that you give the ability to hold you accountable, even though sometimes you might get frustrated sometimes, but that will drive you even more, as well as what will it cost me if I don't go after that? We talked about this earlier. I love how Tony brought this up because it is something that sometimes we have to take time to reflect. What is that thing inside us? What is driving us? What will be the repercussions if we don't follow that? And I'm a big advocate of that as well. I always say, whether it's something I say during the day, something I pursue, as long as 10, 20, whatever, how many years it is. Hopefully, I live a very long life. But whenever that day comes, if I could put my head on the pillow and be okay with all the decisions I make, live with them, and
Mhm.
never live with any regret, then I'm good. And I think that's sometimes what we have to take check in is it fear or is it the potential of regretting the decisions we're making? And
Mhm.
really let that drive, am I going to go after this or am I not? And sometimes it's, and this goes with our theme of today, stopping and reflecting. And
Reflecting.
one of my favorites that Tony mentioned is when you listen, you learn, and when you learn, you earn. And I challenge everyone to take time weekly to listen, to learn, which will help you earn. And finally, remember your ABCs. Always be curious. This was a great episode with our top notch guest, Tony Jalan. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.